It is time for this week's sponsor interview now with Sam Crowther, a founder of Kasada. Kasada, spelt Kasada, is an Australian startup that offers basically, I guess, like a reverse proxy in the cloud that filters bots. And bot filtering is all the rage right now for all sorts of reasons. There's the compute cost of actually serving the bots in the first place. There's the business impact of account takeovers and even content scraping. Basically, there are a number of reasons you'd want to stamp out bot activity on your web properties. And while a bunch of companies offer ways of doing that, Kasada just came in specializing in only that. In fact, they consider it a success when their customers only log into their Kasada account just to sort of sit there and stare at some satisfying numbers. You deploy Kasada between your origin and your CDN, usually, and that's it. It's done, right? So as you'll hear, Sam says the set and forget nature of Kasada is why they've actually been able to succeed despite everyone under the sun apparently already offering bot mitigation. So here's my chat with Sam Crowther of Kasada. I hope you enjoy it.
As businesses are starting to get smarter around, all right, we've now established a lot of these interactions online, and we're now starting to notice problems with, either increases in activity that looks fraudulent or just a general increase in awareness on how something like a bot or automation can be used to abuse different applications or be used for a competitive advantage. People are really starting to, have the light bulb moment and go, okay, wow, we really need to solve this, because the impact spreads far beyond just, my little security team or the fraud department. It actually, they've realized now can spill out into the business from a revenue perspective, from a cost perspective, which, is highly problematic when something from IT or technology ends up with such a wide impact.
Yeah, I mean, there's two real aspects here, isn't there? There's the cloud compute costs. And then you're looking at cred stuffing, which is just, everywhere. And as much as we say, just roll out 2FA to all your users, I mean, that's friction, usability, people don't like that. And you can knock most of it on its head with bot filtering anyway, because it's all automated.
Exactly. Those 2 points are bang on, right? It costs money at the end of the day to serve these customers, especially when a lot of them are fake. And if you go down the route of, some of these more invasive solutions from a UX perspective, there's actually real impacts to the conversion rate. There are some pretty well-known industry numbers about what happens when you introduce capture to the mix in 2FA, but we've seen cases with some customers where, close to 50% of logins don't go anywhere when the process is too complex, which is huge if you're killing off almost half of your users attempting to use your service.
Yeah.
Absolutely enormous.
Yeah. So, I mean, this might explain why, bot mitigation has become just such a crowded space, right? And I got to admit, I mean, it's been pretty interesting for me to see a new Australian, upstart kind of come out of nowhere, win a bunch of deals, and then get the backing of like In-Q-Tel, because they led around for you guys. They led your Series A. So, I mean, you're obviously doing something right. And I don't quite know what that is, because you would think, this isn't the most diabolical problem to knock on its head. So I'm surprised there was room for another entrant, and I'm surprised by the extent that it's going, just how well it's going for you. But there's got to be a reason. So why don't you tell us what that is?
To your point, it is an unbelievably crowded space. Every man and their dog in application security now claims to do bot detection because they realize, hey, it's a problem people need solved. And to us, that really proves that it is a pertinent issue. What we've found unbelievably advantageous is, because we weren't the first, because we didn't need to spend all the money to establish the market and build the technology and make all the mistakes that have been made by others, we're actually in a very good position to learn from really everyone else that's tried to solve it and hasn't done it in a way that's going to work longer term.
Well, and there's always that issue where the people who've dumped a pile of R&D money into developing a solution that's probably not the best approach, they never cut and run from it, right? They're always going to stick with it.
Yeah, so I think that's very true. What started to happen though over the last sort of 12 to 18 months is a lot of the consolidation. So inherently, a lot of that R&D money is now going to go away as these businesses try to really monetize what they've bought. But I believe that, and I think all of us at Kasada and our investors believe that a lot of them, if not all of them, have actually taken some fundamentally wrong approaches and are not actually addressing some of the broader problems that exist, but also some of the problems that fundamentally exist with security technologies. And that's where we are making sure that we don't make those same mistakes. Right? We don't want to build a system that is just adding to the migraines that is the security analysts or the security teams or the engineering teams, for that matter, who have to manage a solution ongoing. That's a huge problem.
I mean, this is seriously just like a reverse proxy that you just direct your traffic through you guys, and that's it. And there's no real there's not really much to it. I mean, you never have to log into the console if you don't want to, right? Just pay your bill and that's that.
Exactly. I mean, we do want people to log into the console and look at it, obviously. But,
because then you get to demonstrate value. But I mean, honestly, you don't quite need to, do you?
Exactly. And that's a big thing for us, is making sure that we continue that, because I think that is a big mistake that many others have made, is creating something that is just another enterprise security tool. And on top of just creating something that's another enterprise security tool, everyone seems to be so caught up in very specific use cases. And a good example is cred stuffing or account takeover. And whilst that is a real problem from an account security perspective, people seem to forget that the other business impacts are huge. When Craig Templeton was on last time, the problem of intellectual property theft at scale and the infrastructure cost is enormous.
Yeah, and for those who don't remember, we actually had the CISO from Australia's leading real estate classifieds site on, and they were using Kasada to stop all of the scraping, and it was costing them money, and it was also this data that was being scraped was being used by third-party real estate data firms, which is is, if you published it, does that make it copyright free? Not really. So they'd probably rather license that information and control who has it and do partnerships and things like that. So that was a really interesting one in terms of eliminating scraping, giving them, letting them sort of take control back of certain elements of their business.
Exactly. And so that's where we believe we're very differentiated as well, is the fundamental belief that automation and the problems that it causes aren't boxed into a single use case or a single section of the business. They actually impact everyone. And I think that's why we've been so successful with our customers, because we can just solve so many different problems for them with the exact same product. And it's just a matter of them, routing the traffic for an application to us. And that's a big differentiator that we're making sure we focus on, as well as the core technology, right? Because to your point, everyone claims that they do bot detection, but what does that mean? Bot detection is very different to a traditional WAF, right? WAFs are very, very well understood, and they're relatively simple bits of technology that match rules against known exploits. So
well, it depends. I mean, to be fair, it depends. There are other companies making WAF-like technology that's a little bit smarter than that. I mean, that is the traditional WAF case, but, come on.
To clarify, talking about the traditional piece, right, where traditionally a WAF is just a rules engine.
Yes.
And I think similarly, there's a misconception that bot detection is the same thing, when in reality, it's very different. It's not something that can be done reliably when you don't have access to the incoming client. And even then, once you have access to an incoming browser or client, there's completely different approaches and I guess levels of sophistication when it comes to actually detecting automation. And
your special source from day one was always going to be like a proof of work based, approach, wasn't it? Which is you throw a challenge at the client, and if a client's really getting hammered, you just increase the complexity of the challenge until they get sick of it and go away.
Yeah, and so that's a core piece, right? So when we think about how do we solve this problem, The only reason people are automating is because it's economical. And so the question to us was, okay, how can we challenge those economics? And one, as you mentioned, is just drive up the cost of running it, right? If it's too expensive to run these bots, the ROI is no longer there, and so it disincentivizes people. Then the other side is, how can you raise the barrier to entry, which is another economical equation. If there's just not as many people with the skills to even get started against a system, right, that is a very valid way to deter people. And that's the other side of it, is we've worked very hard on, okay, how can we raise the skill floor for someone just trying to
brute force one of our clients? Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, have you come across, a really tricky adversary? You must have by now just come across someone who was sliding past some of your controls and just, had to figure out how that was going. And of course, this isn't a gotcha moment. You're just going to expect that being in a business like yours.
And anyone who claims, and we've seen this, who claims that they can catch all of anything, right, is clearly lying. We've seen some very determined adversaries in this space. We've been very fortunate that, again, we've actually designed a product and platform that enables us to, when a sophisticated adversary hits, understand exactly what they're doing and very quickly change the way in which our product works. And this is a core part of it, right? Because to your point,
you've got to be responsive. You absolutely have to be responsive. Was there one thing you saw where you were just like, man, that's clever? Like, hat tip to the person doing it.
Yeah, I think we've seen two cases where, hat tip, I would buy them a beer if I knew who they were.
Yeah. What were they? Tell us. Come on, spill.
Mate, I can't spill too much, but we've seen some people, almost write the equivalent of what is a new browser.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Recompile stuff from very, very low levels.
And what have they gone to, like, make solving your challenge much more efficient, sort of thing, to tilt the economics?
I think they've just spent a lot of money running these bots. They just sort of moved past it, and it clearly was a valuable enough equation for them. But that's where, again, our ability to deal with the retooling comes in, and that's again a really big thing, because the more persistent and financially incentivized adversaries will retool. And we find this happens more so in the cases where it's other businesses that are abusing a system with automation. And this generally doesn't come in the form of credential stuffing or account takeover. It generally comes in the form of trying to obtain data for competitive intelligence. So let's say, hypothetical situation, I'm an online retail business, and my value prop is that I'll get people, very good deals, and that is a price-based thing. So if a competitor can, within minutes of you updating your price, undercut you, then a whole, component of your value proposition is now gone, and the thing that you're getting users on is gone, and that's hugely detrimental to the point of the competitor. They're going to be heavily financially incentivized to make sure that never stops. And it's those cases where we come up against the most sophisticated people, because their business is at stake if they cannot obtain.
So all of those, like, price aggregators and online travel agencies and stuff like that, I mean, they're going to be all over this, right?
Exactly, because if we prevent them, and we do prevent them from getting data that's critical to their business, their whole business is at risk. And so that's where it becomes a very interesting line and adversary.
Yeah.
And we're about protecting our customers, right, and enforcing the rules that our customers have set.
But if that means I have to pay more for airline tickets, I'm personally going to blame you.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Because a lot of these companies are very open to sharing the data. It just needs to be in a way that they can effectively monetize it and track who's getting access.
So they don't mind the second tier aggregators doing stuff. It's more like the third and fourth tier that they want to go away, right? Because they're kind of shady.
Yeah, so most of the big ones actually have very formal relationships, and they pay for the data, and that's all good. It's just, you're right, it's this third and fourth tier aggregator that they're unwanted. But at the end of the day, they're businesses that make money, and so it's not going to be, they're not going to go down without a fight.
This is almost like coming across as the new grey hattery,
It is very much so, because it sits in a strange place, right? It's not illegal, but it's objectively abuse of an application that a company doesn't want.
It's not illegal, but they can probably argue in court about it.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing. All right. Well, Sam Crowther, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you, my friend. Congratulations on all of your success. And, we look forward to watching you keep powering through a very crowded marketplace and keep winning deals. It's great to see. Been a real pleasure to chat to you. We'll do it again soon.
I like it. Thanks for having me, Patrick. Pleasure as always.
That was Sam Crowther of Kasada there, and you can check them out at kasada.io. That is kasada.io for all your bot mitigation needs. Big thanks to Kasada for its sponsorship of the Risky Business podcast. And that is it from me this week. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back next week with more Risky Biz. But until then, I've been Patrick Gray. Thanks for listening.